what does it actually feel like to go from a place of deep doubt to one of absolute, unshakable certainty? We're about to dive into this amazing spiritual discourse from way back in 1826 that uses this one really powerful metaphor to map out the entire anatomy of faith and what happens when that faith gets put to the test.
So right from the jump, the speaker, Sriji Maharaj, makes this direct invitation. There's no messing around. It immediately sets the stage for a really focused, really deep exploration of what it truly means to believe.
Okay, before we go any further, we have to get our heads around this one key concept, nishchay. Now, this isn't just blind belief or wishful thinking. The text is very clear. It's a firm, absolute faith that's also combined with a deep, genuine understanding of God's greatness. This idea, it's the engine that drives this entire conversation.
And this brings us to the core metaphor of the talk, and it's a beautiful one. The journey of a soul is compared to the cycle of the moon. Moving from the complete darkness of a new moon all the way to the brilliant, shining light of a full moon.
So this is square one. This is the starting point. Before developing that firm faith, that nishchay, the soul is said to have just this minimal amount of spiritual light. It's not totally dark, but it's just a little glimmer, right? Like a glowworm in the night. It's a state of pure potential. So how do you get from that tiny glowworm to a brilliant full moon? Well, the process is actually broken down into these really clear steps. First, you develop nishchay, that firm faith. Then, and this is key, you couple that faith with knowledge. And the result? A soul that becomes spiritually brilliant, totally radiant. And what does that brilliant state feel like? Well, it's described as being fearless and totally fulfilled. According to the text, a person with perfect nishchay is unshakable. Nothing, not their inner thoughts or the outside world, can knock them off their path. They just feel this deep sense of completion and purpose.
But what happens when that brilliant full moon faith is challenged? Because the metaphor works in reverse too. Just as the moon can wax and become full, it can also wane, fading right back into darkness.
So the text poses this really critical question. If someone has reached this state of fearless conviction, they're at the top of their game, what could possibly happen to make them lose it all and fall back into doubt and spiritual dimness? And the discourse points to several things, and what's so interesting is how they tap into our deepest vulnerabilities. You've got external factors, right? Like being in the wrong place or with the wrong company. Things that plant a seed of doubt from the outside. But then you have the internal enemies, desire, anger, greed. And these aren't just feelings. The text presents them as forces that can literally distort our perception and cause that spiritual moonlight to just fade away.
But out of all these influences, the text points to one as the most powerful, the most dangerous. The moment a person, a jiva, or a living soul starts to doubt the divine actions of God, it says they risk instantly falling from the path. It's framed as this absolute spiritual point of no return.
So this leads us to this really stark contrast between two totally different states of being. Let's look at a side-by-side comparison of the internal monologue, the thoughts of someone with firm faith versus someone whose faith is weak and wavering.
The contrast is just, wow. The person with weak faith is just haunted by questions and worries. Will I attain liberation or not? They see their spiritual community through this flawed, worldly lens. But then you look at the person with firm faith, their inner voice is one of certainty. I have attained liberation. They experience divine bliss. It's a totally different reality. And get this really shows you the depth of that conviction. The belief isn't just about their own personal salvation. It's so profound that it actually extends outwards. They have the confidence that their very presence and their words can help uplift other people. Now that is a powerful sense of purpose.
Okay, this brings us to the final and, maybe the most provocative part of this whole discourse. It delivers a really powerful warning about where we get our spiritual knowledge from.
It seems like a simple question, right? If the information in a holy book is true, it should be true no matter who's reading it to you. But the text argues, and argues very strongly, that the spiritual state of the teacher is absolutely critical.
And the discourse uses this incredibly strong term, spiritually impotent, to describe a teacher who doesn't have that nishchay, that firm faith themselves. The argument is that if a person doesn't actually possess true, firm faith, their words are basically empty. They're fruitless. They can't uplift anyone else.
And to really hammer this point home, the text uses two powerful analogies. First up is this one.
A person who sees faults in God is like a tree whose roots have been completely severed. You know, the leaves might look green for a little while, but spiritually, it's already withering and dying.
And the second analogy, this one is even more striking. Listening to wisdom from a faithless source is compared to drinking sweetened milk that's been poisoned. The milk itself is good, right? But the venom that's been mixed in makes the whole thing lethal.
So you see the crucial point here, right? The message gets corrupted by the messenger. The wisdom of holy scriptures, even the holiest of scriptures, can, according to this text, actually become harmful if it's passed on by someone who lacks genuine, firm conviction. The source matters just as much as the content.
And that brings us right back full circle to the central metaphor of this entire discourse, and it turns it into a question for us, for our own personal reflection. When we look at our own convictions, are we on a journey towards the brilliance of a full moon, or are we letting doubts creep in and cause us to wane? It's a really powerful thought to end on.